Well, hello everybody. Take 2 on a brand new episode of We Watch Shudder. My name is JD, and who's here with me?
It's Michelle again.
Michelle, are you recording this time?
I am recording, but at least
Awesome.
each time we've had these technical difficulties, it's only been about 2 minutes in. I'm very
Right.
smart. I notice it each time.
Yeah, on my
but-
other podcast, All Screens
Ugh.
Great and Small, which, by the way, you guys should check out. I'm just going to throw the plug in right here at the beginning before we
Go
even
for
get
it.
into this podcast. All Screens Great and Small. That's me and my buddy Scott. We talk about all sorts of movies. But I've had a couple of problems there, and they always happen after the episode is done, and I lose the entire episode, and it sucks the worst.
Well, I'm not doing that. It's always our introduction, and then they miss just like the stuff that they probably didn't want to hear anyway.
Right. So now that we've lost literally everybody who probably is just tuning in for the first time,
Hello.
Michelle, why don't you tell them what we do here on We Watch Shudder?
We watch Shudder.
That's exactly right. We check out new original and exclusive titles released by Shudder. That's the horror streaming service courtesy of AMC Networks. They manage that whole thing. It's like $6 a month, guys, and there's tons and tons of great content on there. Plus, they put out enough new stuff that we were able to make a whole podcast around it. So that's awesome. It's like
And
What?
oh, sorry, I was
No,
going to
go
say
ahead, go
August is Stephen King month. I just have to say that I love
Yes.
Stephen King. I have been watching so much Stephen King for the
It's also,
the last 11 days.
it's also George Romero month.
I know, but I don't care about that as much as I care about Stephen King.
Wow, judgments have been passed.
Listen, I am a Stephen King and Dean Koontz fan. My life is very difficult.
Look, I'm also not gonna maybe make a whole lot of friends with this, but aside from those 3 very major, important, and well-regarded zombie movies, I don't really think George Romero did anything else worth watching. So, hot takes.
Even the amusement park, the greatest PSA to ever wind up on the Shudder streaming
Oh,
site.
if you guys ever were curious what we thought of George Romero's The Amusement Park, well, I tell you what, pay attention in October, you might find out.
You're going to be so excited.
Are you all confused yet? Do you have any idea what you're listening to? So we're here to talk about new original and exclusive We Watch Shudder content. Except what's the problem with that, Michelle?
Well, usually our gimmick would be that we would watch whatever exclusive or original content Shudder puts out on a Thursday, sometimes a Friday, but mostly a Thursday. Once it was a Monday. That was very confusing. But then they didn't do any of those days this week, and they're giving us a double feature next week instead.
Right, so we didn't have a new original or exclusive title to talk about. And so we put our genius brains together, and we thought it
Brilliant,
through.
both of us. Super high
And
IQs.
ultimately, thanks to the input of somebody out there in listener land, Michelle didn't tell me specifically who.
It
but
was
it
my
does-
husband.
Oh, was it your husband, John Roller?
He loves this movie. Hi, John.
Okay, so John suggested, and I thought, hey, that's actually a really good idea. We're gonna talk about it is a Shudder original. Weirdly, it's listed, and I know why, but it's listed under the series. So if you go looking for this, don't look under movies. Look under series. It's called Blood Machines, and it's a series because it's basically just 3 parts, and each one is like 15 minutes long. You can watch the whole thing in less than an hour. But yeah, that's the complicated way of saying we are watching the Shudder original series for some reason, Blood Machines. Michelle, have you seen Blood Machines before we watched it today?
I had, and I was actually the one who recommended that you watch it, which is why I got a couple years ago when this came out, 2 years ago or somewhere around there, you were basically live tweeting me via Facebook Messenger while on shrooms watching this movie.
That was
a very fun time.
it was LSD. It wasn't mushrooms,
Oh,
but
okay.
fair. Either way, yeah. I was. Michelle introduced me to this film, which I freely admit to watching for the very first time a couple of years ago under the influence of a very healthy dose of psychedelic intoxication. Man, what a great choice that was. And then I've watched it once in the interim, and then I watched it again today. Michelle, what are your spoiler-free thoughts on Blood Machines?
Okay. So they should not have tried to put any sort of plot in this movie whatsoever because I think it completely takes away from the experience and I just zoned out anytime they had anything to say. As we have now seen since Mad God was released, sometimes you're better off just not having dialogue at all, just letting us enjoy it. I will give this movie a 4 skull out of 5, and that is entirely based on it being a really good music video that lasted an hour. This should not have had any story whatsoever.
I am also very positive on Blood Machines. I like I said, I got the very thorough experience that first time, thanks to the assistance of some chemical elements there. I've also, like I said, watched it with a more clear head and looking at it. I love the thematics of this film. I think it's visually awesome. I do think it falls into a similar category as a movie like Mad God, being very much visually symbolic and just sort of about just bombarding your brain with images. I don't mind the bit of plot and narrative that they put into this. I think it's just enough to make the entire thing understandable. It gives us just enough of a window that it isn't just like dense metaphor that you're just left alone to try and figure out for yourself. And I kind of appreciate that. Although I don't think the metaphor here was all that complicated to figure out on your own anyway. But yeah, I enjoyed this one quite a bit. In fact, in a rare occurrence, this is one that I honestly would have liked to have seen more of. If you take out the fact that the credits roll 3 times, the actual movie itself runs about 45 to 48 minutes, somewhere in that region. I could have seen this as a feature-length film. I think there was enough of a story here that they could have done that. But I'm going with 4 skulls on this one as well.
Interesting. I wish we had less of it and that they would have just removed all story. So you and I, despite agreeing that it is a very good movie that should be seen, we have entirely different takeaways from how it would have become a 5 skull. Interesting.
All right.
We'll have to delve into that a lot.
We will. That reminds me, I didn't read the summary from the movie, so I'm going to go ahead and do that right now.
We are on our A game today.
Man, well, you started it.
I know.
And for those of you who are curious, this is the summary from the Shudder website for Blood Machines. 2 space hunters are tracking down a machine trying to free itself. After taking it down, they witness a mystical phenomenon. The ghost of a young woman pulls itself out of the machine as if the spaceship had a soul. Trying to understand the nature of this entity, they start chasing the woman through space. A Shudder original. That was Blood Machines. So what do they want to do now, Michelle?
Now, if you want to go check out Blood Machines, which you probably should.
I strongly recommend you do.
We're going to spoil a bunch of it in this next section. So you might want to just pause. This is your heads up. You pausing, you getting up, you grabbing your phone. Why was your phone so far away from you? What were you doing? How could you even be without your phone in your pocket or on your... They're still getting their phone. This is, wow. This person left on the other side of the house. Why do you even have Bluetooth headphones that could reach that far?
I don't know. Man,
they've got it now. Okay.
Cool.
Oh, and they're gone. They paused and they never came back.
Welcome back. This is the spoilers section now.
Yep.
So, Michelle, tell me, like we said, with that summary, there is a plot here. You've got the 2 guys in the spaceship chasing after the other spaceship, and then the spaceship... I guess what I'm wondering is, you thought there was too much story here? Because I thought there was barely enough story here. Tell me more about that.
There is barely any story, and it is still too much. I would have preferred if this was just a visual journey with beautiful music and that it was left to us to interpret a lot more, because what they do try to explain as the plot is kind of convoluted and a little messy and hard to follow exactly, especially in such a short amount of time. I think it was too much for a very short I guess, series, as they call it. But I would have preferred that they just didn't even bother and just, we saw the exact same thing with no dialogue. And I think that would have been much more entertaining, and that we would have been able to just try to figure in or fill in the gaps on our own. I think when they try to have any sort of conversation, it really takes away from the experience that I'm enjoying. They break it up with conversation. Stop doing that. Let me watch the naked sci-fi woman who is also a spaceship. We're just here for the titties and the sci-fi. Give me the titties and sci-fi.
Wow,
Stop talking.
I did not expect that you would be the first one to make such an overture in an episode of We Watch Shudder. But,
titties and sci-fi only going forward.
No, I don't. It's so interesting because I don't disagree with you on the basic point, right? That there's just a little bit of story here. I myself, I guess, I didn't find it all that difficult to follow what was happening here. I definitely feel like there was more that I personally would have liked to see this story be developed more. Like I said, I'm curious about the backdrop of this AI war or uprising that's going on. I feel like they started to introduce a very interesting mythology here with what are these things in the spaceships that, as it turns out, they have, and was like, is the implication that maybe they've been building these spaceships using actual like women as part of the construction of the ship somehow, and like those people on the planet when they first meet them, Corey and the other scavengers or as they're called, we of course realize they're more of a shaman group or something like that, some sort of spiritual collective. There was just enough taste of interesting things here that it made me really, really want more. Like, it very much made me want to dive into this world and find out more about everything that's going on.
Interesting. I think if this had been a longer movie, I would agree with you that I would be interested in all those things. But with the way it is, I don't like that they tried to give us any of it. I would have preferred in this shorter telling that they took us on such a journey to begin with. I would have preferred for them to just let our minds wander and just be along for this ride and not have any of those answers, with them trying to come up with, a big conflict and a resolution and all these things. I mean, really, we just wanted to see more of this world, and doing that takes away from viewing the world and listening to the music and just feeling it. That's
so wild because, like, for me, if this had been even more stripped down, like, I don't know, have you seen the Turbo Killer music video that's sort of the precursor to this? Are you aware of that whole thing?
Nada, but now I'm going to go Google.
So the way this all happened, first of all, the director of this movie, it's credited to a director named, why is it's not on the screen here on the Shudder page? Why not? I'm just about to get it brought up because I'm so prepared.
This music video is basically the movie.
Yeah.
Not exactly, but same style. Yeah.
Seth Eicherman is the name of the writer-director, but as it turns out, Seth Eicherman is a pseudonym used by two people. There's a couple of French dudes named Rafael Hernandez and Savitri Jolie Gonfard. I'm probably butchering that name. But yeah, they make movies under the unified name Seth Eicherman, and then this guy Carpenter Brute is a synthwave musician, and they started out making this music video for the Carter Brute song Turbo Killer, and then just from that collaboration, they got the idea to then make this larger thing, and then doing it in the other direction, whereas with the music video, they created their images sort of inspired by the music and to fit what was going on there. This was more starting with the imagery and then fitting the music to it, which is why you have those giant sweeping more music video type sections here. I do think that for me, because I'm a kind of person who very much does want some kind of narrative in my movies, if they had stripped this down and it had just been, say, 25 to 30 minutes of chaotic visuals, I would have been really, really bored with that. I would have been like, oh, pretty colors, and that would have been as far as I took it. And that little bit of a story was enough to really get its hooks in me and make me want a whole lot more.
I somehow knew when you agreed to do Blood Machines for today's episode that you were going to show up and just school me. I knew it. I knew that you were going to be like, I know everything about this movie. You know nothing. And you're going to show up. And
I don't know that I know everything about it. I know that
I
there's,
knew none of this, though. I think it's very interesting. Yeah. Well, obviously, there's a director.
But no, I do. Here's the one thing, though, that I do kind of agree with you on is the visual style of this movie definitely would have had to be put a little bit more in check if they were going to stretch it out to a feature-length narrative. I think that chaotic music video pace and energy is not necessarily something that they could have kept up for an entire, 75 to 90-minute feature without losing me that way. So I think I might agree with you. I think if they weren't going to add more to it, maybe it would have worked out better if they had stripped more down. But no, I love I love the story that they're, even just the basic story that they're telling here, and all of the the very obvious phallic and yonic imagery at play, and like when that giant harpoon comes shooting out of the giant spaceship in that final sequence, like, could there be any greater dick metaphor than just this giant harpoon weapon? And yeah, I just loved everything about this. I think it's really, 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 really good. I just would have liked there to have been more.
Wait, there's a metaphor? No, I'm kidding.
Yeah,
I thought this was a literal
metaphor.
I thought this was a literal telling of a woman who is also a spaceship, and then she has an upside down cross covering her hoo-ha. By the way, when I put the cover as a teaser image, I had to crop it so that her nipple was not showing because Instagram would shadow ban us.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Well, that was a clever cropping. Well done.
Thank you.
Apparently you can show
everything else.
You can show the vulva drenched in shining light, but you can't show a nipple. That's unacceptable.
Yeah, that's the dress code at my work too. And it's very
ultimately, yeah. Again, I really like the symbolism at play here. That idea that they destroyed a ship, and these shaman women or whatever they were extract, like, it turns out that ship is alive, right? It's not, and the metaphor of the ship for women, obviously, and like, this isn't just a machine or a tool for your use. This is a living thing, and that machine's soul is a person. And then they go into that giant, what is ostensibly a giant scrapyard, and the whole ultimate conclusion of that cataclysmic battle at the end is they reform all those junk machines into a gigantic person, right? And it stops having the appearance, at least outwardly, of a machine at all, and it's just a giant woman again, and just that symmetry of layers of machine upon man upon machine. I really enjoyed that sort of aspect of it. I just thought it had some really impressive symbolism, and I would have loved to see how they could merge that with a deeper story and really take this to some interesting places.
And everything you just explained happened in a way that you wouldn't have needed dialogue to understand any of that.
Well, yeah, you're not wrong, but
I
think a narrative in a lot of ways offers some. Like, I would like to know more about who these shaman women are. What is more. This was a rich, lush mythology, and it just left me wanting a whole lot more. To the extent that I was just slightly disappointed, right? I felt interestingly enough, that this movie was it was a right on the edge tease, and then didn't quite get there, and I was like, oh, I want more.
So this movie, I guess in a different way, I could say that the dialogue that exists in it is unsatisfactory because it could have been richer in the moments that
Yes,
it chose to
definitely.
tell us anything, and it didn't. So therefore, I don't like that there is dialogue because
No,
it
that's
does not
cool.
add to it, and it does not enhance, and it takes away from the things that are good about this movie.
I can't argue with that. It's like that's the beautiful thing of opinions and perspectives. You can have two exact set of circumstances affect people different ways. That's cool. I do
Yeah.
want to talk about a couple of things. Like, first of all, this movie, I mean, obviously it's very low budget, right? And you can tell that these are special effects at play, but they do it in that sort of throwback 70s, 80s kind of gritty grindhouse kind of look that we've talked about before. But I love the ship design here. My favorite design element in this entire thing, two things. I love the AI inside the ship that looks like an ancient like maternity
Yes.
statue.
Yep,
But
I completely agree.
also like a weird like C-3PO robot. I love that. But I love the gun. Right, that laser. I love, and not so much the gun itself. I love the effect of that weapon. How it shoots that long extended beam out, and it just kind of floats there, and then you can use that as a weapon. I thought they could have done cool things with that. Probably because I just also watched that most recent Predator movie, Prey, as well as Bullet Train, and I'm in kind of an action movie setting. Maybe that was an influence. I don't know. I loved the design of that gun. I also, frankly, was had to catch my breath a bit. Like the very obvious imagery of Corey handling that gun in the third section, I thought was like, oh wow, you guys really got away with something there. Well done. It's just I thought it just very lush, psychedelic, crazy imagery. Yeah, I can't complain about that. I love the design of this. I thought the look of everything was super cool. Yeah, I would have liked more.
Yeah.
You got
I mean,
anything
I-
else to I
Is this a
feel
bad
like-
time to tell you I have not been recording again?
I would, yes, this would
I'm
be
fucking with you. This movie wasn't scary at all, and I figured I needed to give us both a little bit of a fright.
Yeah, you're definitely right. This is definitely not something that
no,
falls in the
it's not meant
horror
to be
genre
scary.
at all. No. No, this is definitely more of the horror adjacent as we talked. It does have
Sci-fi.
some splattery weird gory shit, and it just some strange imagery and weirdness going on. But yeah, that's interesting. So as it turns out, maybe doing this as a mid-level short film was not necessarily the right choice either way. Some of us would have liked it to have been a feature. Some of us would have liked it to be a little shorter. Could have been a Five Skull effort either direction. What's interesting to me, though, is what would have made it a Five Skull effort for you probably would have knocked it down for me. And what would have made it a Five Skull effort for me might have knocked it down a few for you.
Yeah. No, I
Yeah.
think going forward, all movies should just be 3-part miniseries that are only 25 minutes long, and you have to go to the theater and sit through 5 minutes of credits every 20 minutes.
I think that would be
same event.
I think that would be the death knell for the movie theater.
Yeah, but no, that is really interesting because I thought this was one we might disagree on because I could not remember very much of it, and I thought I remembered disliking it, which I kind of do, but it is such a visual journey that is fun to behold that's why it gets such a high score for me. And I remembered that you absolutely love this movie, so the fact that we both generally like it at least, and then what would have made it a 5-star or 5 skull for both of us is completely opposite directions, and that this would have been a very divisive movie. I'm
frankly a little disappointed that it did come in at the length it did, and we both somehow landed on the cross point while we were headed in different directions. This could have been a much more angry and yelly and screamy and you're an idiot and you don't know what you're talking about podcast, and they just had to land right there in the middle on us.
I know, this could have been a friendship ending movie, and instead we're both just like, okay,
Seth
this is
Eicherman
fine.
really Seth Eicherman really had an opportunity to do something disastrous to our friendship here, and they totally blew it.
Yeah, more than what either of us do that's disastrous to our friendship. How dare he? How dare he maintain friendships?
Right. How dare they? So I think that's we've pretty much gone over the broken record 2 or 3 times here on how this one played out. I hope you guys do check it out one way or the other. I think you'll enjoy it from a visual standpoint. Maybe you would like more like me. Maybe you would have liked less like Michelle. But I think one way or the other, you're going to enjoy your time. And especially since you can watch it in less than an hour, not a whole lot of investment you need to make to get a lot out of it.
Yep, I agree.
All right. Yeah, that's so that's everything about Blood Machines. Michelle, you did tell us there's a double feature coming up next week. What are the movies in the double feature next week?
Glorious and The Innocents. And I do have to say that I like when they have these double features that they have been choosing movies that are entirely different. So we're not watching like 2 slow ghost movies in one single Thursday and doing 2 episodes. They always pick 2 that are very, very different. These look very different. One is very purple. The other is very gray. That's all I know about them so far.
One of
I like
them
to go
looks
into
very
movies with
purple
minimal information.
I don't even know what that means. It looks. I'm guessing you're looking at like a preview image, and it's kind of purple tinted.
Yeah, exactly. You know what I mean. You've seen Color of Space. That's a very purple movie.
It is a very pinkish purple movie.
Blood Machines is a very purple movie.
It's you could say that in a couple of different shades of purple, but yeah, it's a very purple movie in a lot of ways.
Exactly. Glorious is a very purple movie.
You guys will understand. Revealer was a real purple movie. You guys will understand when you see it.
You'll get it. You'll get it.
Anyway, guys, look for those episodes to come out next week. We've got always new stuff coming your way. I'm terrible at ending these shows. Say goodnight, Michelle.
Good night, Michelle.